G'day guys, my name is Lord Tom. We're here again with another Sonic the Hedgehog toy item collectible review. As you already know, this is Sonic the Hedgehog. Seems to be wanting to read one of my comics. I don't know if you guys ever seen this or read it, but it's the Blue Beetle. Cross promotion! Not really, but it's interesting that he would want to pick this up. You know, we'll put him aside and let him read it on his own time and get into the actual review. Now, this review is more or less going to be set up as two parts. Similar to the plushie set that I had before, where I had a Sonic the Hedgehog and a Tails. This one's more or less going to fall into that. I will show you obviously the Sonic one because, you know, that's the one. This is the Sonic the Hedgehog plush by Caltoy. Caltoy? Yeah, it's Caltoy. Now, I'm going to be uploading obviously a Tails one as well. I figured I might as well do it 2 hits, you know, with one stone, more or less, because they do pretty much work with one another. They unified one another and they complement one another, as well as they have, I wouldn't say a feature, but they have a small design which kind of makes one exactly the same as the other. Well, not exactly the same, but obviously, you know, they have this small little quirk. I would discuss that obviously as I continue on with this review. So this is the Sonic the Hedgehog plush. Now this was more or less manufactured in 1993-ish, 1994 thereabouts, if I'm not mistaken, and it's by a company by the name of Caltoy over here. Caltoy. I initially wanted to pronounce it as Calton. I was like, Caltoy? That sounds so weird. Why would you name a Sonic item as a cow? Anyway, it's a Caltoy and it's got a picture of a little girl and a teddy bear. Obviously this is a plushie, and this is one of the plushies. I'm not a heavy plushie collector, but the Sonic and the Tails one was one of the plushies that I initially wanted to get, simply because of its design, its I guess I wouldn't say creativity, but it's more or less its design and marksmanship. Marksmanship? No, not marksmanship. Basically the way they created it. It was so superb and so well done. I was like, you know what, this has to be added to my collection, simply because of just obviously being Sonic and just the overall design. And thank God I picked this up, as well as the Tails one. A little pricey, I will admit. I will get into the price later on, but it came in its original box. A little tattered, of course. It's surefire, what do you expect, but you know, whatnot. As normal, before we get into the plushie itself, we'll talk about the box briefly. And we'll go from there. Now, this is obviously the Sonic. It's predominantly purple, except the bottom, it looks pink, but that could be due to, you know, I wouldn't say weathering, but lighting and all that sort of stuff. So it does obviously gradually go over time or fade. Anyway, at the very beginning you have obviously a picture of Sonic the Hedgehog, and obviously at the time he had a little barcode sticker which would indicate how much it cost. I'm not entirely sure how much it cost. I can only assume that it would have cost $30 thereabouts, because this is one of those plushies that in my personal opinion would be cost anything less. But yeah, look, it's definitely I'm guessing, I could be wrong. I got my one for way more obviously, but at the time I would have think about $30. At the very bottom over here, you have the little company, Calton. You have a picture of Retro Sonic the Hedgehog waving his little finger as usual, and you have the title Sonic the Hedgehog. Very classic, very nostalgic. At the very bottom, there's absolutely nothing. On the side, you just have, once again, a better picture of Sonic the Hedgehog. You have obviously his name, and you have Calton as well. A nice little, I guess, bit, if you can call it that, is you have like these little checker marks. It's pretty much standard to Sonic, you know, plushies and that sort of stuff. Not plushies, but just the merchandise in general. Not so much the newer stuff, more or less the retro stuff. So that's more or less how you can tell the difference, more or less. On the other side, it's exactly the same, nothing too crazy. On the back is probably by far the most interesting and creative. I'm just going to put my remote there. At the back you just have obviously a picture of Sonic the Hedgehog running through the bridge gate in the original Green Hill Zone, where you had those little piranha-like creatures, the choppers in other words, basically more or less trying to obviously kill Sonic. Anyway, you obviously have a picture of a Dr. Eggman or Dr. Robotnik, however you like it, and you have a little blurb. I'll bring it in as best I can. There we go. You can pause it and read it. There we go. You can pause it and read it. I'll read a bit. It says, "Hi, my name is Sonic the Hedgehog. I'm the blue superhero Sonic with an attitude that's been providing hours of enjoyment to video games worldwide. It's no surprise that kids love me because I'm way past cool." I absolutely love it. This was just a bonus for me. I absolutely love the fact that this is way past cool. You know, back in the 90s, or back in the 90s specifically, growing up as a kid, you always use words like rad, radical, you know, way past cool, awesome, you know, that sort of stuff. Nowadays we go what, swag, wretched, all the fun stuff. Not my cup of tea. Maybe I'm showing my age, who knows. Oh look, and you also have a secret little buzz bomber there as usual, and you obviously have his barcode, and surface washable. That means you can clean it just and throw it in the washer. So that's pretty nice. The box, as you can tell, does have a bit of shelfware over here, as you would expect. You know, to get this in pure mint condition, A, would be hard, and B, you know, it would be impressive. Now this actual plushie itself is pretty much tied by the back by this little golden little noose of sorts. The Tails one exactly has it, so let's more or less open him up so you can get a better view of the plushie itself. Come out. You are free, my child, you are free. So this is the plushie itself. It stands tall, it's pretty cute, it's pretty nice. Now straight out of the bat, I don't know if you guys could tell, it's one of those things that I wish you could physically grab and show. But it's one of those plushies where it's just so well plumped. It's the amount of stuffing it has is just insensational. It's one of those things where, you know, with some plushies you got certain parts where it's not stuffed, certain parts it is. The whole thing, I don't know if it's just mine, but the whole thing is just well stuffed, and sounds like I'm swearing actually. But it's well stuffed and it's well proportioned. It's extremely adorable in so many levels. Well, just moving just for his face, you have obviously the Sonic, you have the Sonic face, you have his adorable little ears. Mind you, the overall, I don't know what material this is made out of. All materials contain polyester fiber, surface washable. So I'm guessing polyester, I don't know. Maybe it says polyester, so I'm going to assume it's polyester. It's absolutely furry. It's as if you would imagine the actual real Sonic the Hedgehog being in real life. This is my personal opinion, as calm and close as you're going to get. The other stuff, such as the other, you know, the newer stuff, you can tell the major difference. It doesn't really give you that nice, beautiful vibe, in my opinion. It's still good, these newer plushies. Just this one just was a must-have for me. You have obviously his plastic eyes, very adorable, very cute. You have his nose, well proportioned to his face. You have obviously his smirk, which is extremely beautiful. I love that. Obviously his little ears, he's well detailed all over his face. You have his little hands, his arms, adorable once again. You can even clap. Obviously this doesn't have any like wiring or anything, so you can't perform any forms of articulation or anything like that, but it's a plushie, why would you know what I mean? You have his leg, which is adorable as well, and you have his obviously design over here and his socks. The only small nitpick, if at all, it's not so much a nitpick, it's more of an observation, is there's no real details on the sole, but you know what, I'm not complaining. This is just the perfect plushie overall. Now the back is probably by far one of the things I wouldn't say question as such, but it's one of those things that was like, I guess it worked at the time. You know, I was thinking I was preferring something else, but I'll explain. This is what you expect of a classic, you know, retro sort of plushie of the days. You have obviously what it is, which is his spikes, which is set up of 3. You have 1, 2, and you have obviously the third, which is, you know, standard. You know, it's to be expected. I'm not entirely sure. I'm pretty sure this is polyester, maybe. I couldn't say with 100% certainty, but it's you know, great. I was thinking initially to have it just like his body, like a little, you know, plumped out, similar to one of the new ones. I'm always gonna like someone like this, but then I figured, yeah, it might work, but at the same time this works just as well, and I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna complain. It's adorable, and it's one of those things that's nice. And obviously you have his adorable tail, which is pretty nice. Overall, this plushie itself is extremely superb in so many levels that you cannot believe. It does truly capture the essence and the how would you explain it? The essence of the original, you know, Sonic the Hedgehog. Extremely small, extremely chubby, and very adorable. And obviously, in a way, it looks pretty cool. Now the Tails one, I'll show you briefly the Tails one. Obviously, I'm going to go into full depth review of that one as well. But the Tails one is this one as well. Now, why I mean this has to coincide with one another is because if you can tell, I'll get a good view, the standing difference, the unified well together, because the Tails one is smaller than Sonic the Hedgehog, where the Sonic one is taller. That is awesome in so many levels. I'm going to put the Tails ones in aside. Why I thought that was a nice little, I wouldn't say gimmick, a feature, is because obviously Tails is younger and Sonic is older. So for them to go that extra mile and say, you know what, let's even keep the parameters right, sold me completely. So this was one of those plushies, it was more or less I must have. In, you know, it was one of those things where, look, I was like, I'll pay at any price. Now we're going to go to the nitty gritty and all the fun stuff. Obviously made mention this was more or less released in 1993, 1994, thereabouts. It's from a company called Caltoy, more or less from my research anyway. Was released in the US, definitely not in Australia, which obviously is the reason why I never picked this up. And the price. Now originally, funny enough, the Sonic one costs cheaper. It's still expensive in my view, well at the time anyway. The Sonic one is more expensive than that of the Tails. The Tails one, the Tails one was more expensive than Sonic, oddly enough. I know why, my personal opinion, but obviously with that review you can watch it and I'll explain it a little more. This one cost me, if I'm not mistaken, $130 plus I think it was $15 shipping or something, so $145 thereabouts, which is a steep hill for a plushie, admittedly. You know, apparently there's been other stuff that's been sold for way more, which I was just like, what? Apparently there's been plushies that have been sold for like $1,000 or something. I don't know if that's the case, but apparently that's always been the case there. So yeah, so if you're more or less looking for something like this, it might set you back around the $100 mark. I wouldn't go too crazy in terms of pricing out there. Now Rarity. Now this is definitely a catch. You know, to get it with a box, you know, as flawless as this, and to get a plushie like this, I'm probably gonna have to pump this up to maybe 8.5 stars out of 10. Definitely worth a catch. There's absolutely no issues of this whatsoever, unless, you know, but I'm not even gonna complain about that. So this is definitely a plushie that I was like, you know what, gotta add this to my collection. It was so worth. Just look at it. It's adorable. It's just adorable. And I'm not a guy that normally says adorable. I work as a bouncer, so that's, you know, that's pushing the margin there. And guys, I do hope you enjoyed this review and you watch the second part-ish, if you can call it that, of his companion Tails My Prowl. You know guys, thanks for watching. Stay classy and speed on.